Hello everyone, Ben here and welcome back to our USF 2000 Championship here on iRacing. It's time for round 4 and we're returning to Lime Rock Park. We visited last season, but this time around we're on the Grand Prix circuit, which in my opinion is a much bigger challenge. Let's get into qualifying and see how we got on. So we join our fastest lap here then as we're coming down the Sam Posey straight. For the first time, we actually went quicker on our opening lap. We're going to spot our braking just after the 2 board there on the left hand side, point the car towards that inside curbing, then let it drift to the outside. We're quite conservative really, we don't let the car drift too far, and then get the second apex hooked up. Brake quite deep into that corner to get the car rotated and then back through this snaking section, try and get on the curb on the inside there as well and power out. Again, on colder tyres we're not really able to push to the maximum here, we're leaving some time on the table as we come down into the chicane. This is the big difference. On the Grand Prix layout we don't take the full hill section, we're actually through that chicane, very difficult to get the car slowed down and turned in. And now, quick as a flash, we're towards the end of the lap as we're just trying to maintain as much speed as we can through those 2 right-handers, down the hill and back onto the Sam Posey straight, when we'll come across the start-finish line to complete our flying lap. A short lap here at Lime Rock Park, but nevertheless we left quite a bit of time on the table. Here's the full results of qualifying then. 18 cars are going to take the grid here. We came in 6th position, which is a great place to be starting, albeit some of the cars, as you can see, didn't set a time, but we're a full second back on what the lead cars can do, which always blows my mind just a little bit. Before we get going, if you enjoy any of what you're about to see, do remember to hit the like button, that helps me out a lot, and if you really like it, think about subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any of the races we've got coming up in the future. But we're about to get on with the race, so let's go down to the grid. Here we are then in the cockpit, just waiting for the lights to go green, but actually the pack gets away before we even get to the green lights. So we now are racing, we're on the outside for T1, which is filling me with a little bit of dread. I know I'm going to have cars pushing past me on the inside. I'm not going to seek to close the door at this point of the race. It might be a sprint race, but 15 minutes is quite a long time in these cars on this circuit, so I think there are going to be opportunities. And there is one, right there, 2 cars off to the right hand side, so even if we lost places, and another off to our left, that means we're actually gaining places back on those that we lost in the opening corner just by being a little bit more conservative than the drivers around us. You don't need to win the race on lap 1, but you can lose it. Just up ahead, cars getting a little bit out of shape through the chicane for the first time. We think about a move down the right hand side of the Red Bull liveried car up ahead. I think that's DeZono. But we think better of it as he shuts the door, and he is now all over the back of Goldstein just up ahead of us. Still not quite sure what position we're running in here, as we can see the 2 cars going side by side, and he's going to get that move done by the looks of things into the first corner. Very good racing there up ahead for the 2 cars not to come together, and it looks like DeZono really on the march. We have maintained 6th position, so despite losing a few spots and being a little bit conservative through those opening couple of corners, because others were just going at it too hard at that stage of the race, actually we're in the same position that we started the race in, and we don't have any incident points, no damage, and we can start thinking about building our race from here. And we do have a decent gap back to Cook, who's about 1.5 seconds behind us, running in 7th place as we come around to end lap 2 of this race then, and now start thinking about, well, just how much more progress might we make up the field. Before we do that though, let's take a little look back at that opening couple of laps. Here we are then on the outside of T1. I've got the Williams liveried car just on the inside. I'm going to let him go and I could retake the racing line with the Red Bull car then diving to our inside, and just up ahead the first of 2 accidents as we come through the right-hander and then the left-hander, which essentially gives us the places back that we've just lost. But we get away with no incident points, no damage as we come into the chicane for the first time. A little bit worried that we wouldn't get the car slowed down and turned in on cold tyres. Clearly the 2 up ahead of us were struggling with that, so we close in on their rear wings as we come around the final 2 corners of the lap. but we're not close enough to get into the draft down into T1 on lap 2. But I don't really mind about that at this stage of the race. I'm just very pleased to have gotten through safely and in a position where we can build from here. Here's another look back then at those incidents, and you can see the two drivers up ahead of us coming together in that first incident. I think this is Bachmann in the white car. He just misjudges the closing speed and punts off the car up in third position. Here we are then with the Williams liveried car, who manages to get through that first incident and then is running side by side, and it looks like he gets tagged from behind, which pitches him into a spin. But actually when we look at it again from the helicam, it seems like there's a bit of a netcode issue there. I don't see any contact between the two cars, and that is a really unfortunate incident for him. We rejoin then just a couple of laps later, and the battle up ahead has really intensified. The Red Bull liveried car, he's cleared off, but we've both caught up with Palomero, who is now running just behind Goldstein. And they have been fighting now for the last couple of laps. Palomero definitely has the pace on Goldstein. He probably has the pace on us as well, but because they're fighting up ahead, it's allowing me to hold on to the back of them and try and squeeze up to them myself. Side by side they're going then through this opening couple of corners of the lap. This is giving me a little bit of cause for concern as well, if I'm honest. I don't really want to get caught up in anything, and look at that, the two cars make contact, and that could have been a really big accident. And if I'm running too close to them, then I don't give myself the space and the chance to react to that sort of accident. So I'm really torn as to how far to close up. But just as I say that, we're coming into the chicane, and finally Goldstein has cracked under the pressure from Palomero, and he's had to go straight on and retake the track after the chicane by taking to the exit road, and he has now dropped back down behind us. That is going to promote us up into 5th position, which is fantastic. It meant that I gained a position without needing to go side by side or wheel to wheel with either of the cars up ahead. And really, that is going to be a theme of racing around this circuit, no matter which part of the grid you're in. There is only really one line through the vast majority of these corners. T1 is probably your best bet of getting something done, but for the rest of the lap, it's very, very difficult to squeeze two cars side by side through some of these corners, and so you have to be patient and you have to try and apply a bit of pressure. We're going to try and put a little bit of pressure on Palomero if we can. Looking at his iRating, it looks to me like he's going to be too quick for us, and we're going to have to just settle for where we are on the grid at the moment. And as we come towards the end of our first lap behind him, although we were able to keep pace through the middle section of the lap, it does look as if he's just got 2 or 3 tenths on us that we could then struggle essentially to reel him in. Let's take a little look back then at how all of that played out just up ahead of us, as Palomero here is looking down the inside of Goldstein through T1. Goldstein hangs it out on the outside. Fair play to him for not just conceding that position, and then he's got the high ground into the next corner. Palomero actually turns in on Goldstein and didn't give him the racing room there. So if there had been an accident, I think I probably would have attributed the majority of the responsibility to the car behind. But then coming into the chicane, then Goldstein just locks up, and that then means he has to take to the escape road, and it means that he can't hold off Palomero or myself any longer, and we then scoot through there in the front of shot. Big shame, a small mistake, but at least he gets to carry on. We rejoin then with just 4 minutes left of this race. Palomero has, as I predicted, cleared off up the road. We've been tracked behind now by Turnbull. Unfortunately, Goldstein retired from the race, and so Turnbull is the car that is now following us, and he's managed to bring the gap down from about 5 seconds to around 3 seconds as we're coming into the final third of this race. So he's turning up the pressure a little bit, and I need to get my pace back up if I'm going to avoid a last lap battle with him, because as the pace is at the moment, he will be on our rear wing towards the end of the race. But look at this, on the pop-up camera then, here is Turnbull on board, and he's coming around the last corner now, and he just gets slightly wide, 2 tyres on the grass, and that is a huge shunt, and that will be him out of this race. And all of a sudden then, the pressure that could have been building from behind on us through the closing stages of this race has disappeared. So all of a sudden then, we've got a really great chance of scoring some big championship points here. We're in a strength of field of 1.7k, which for the USF series as a D-class series is pretty high, and if we can hold 5th position, it looks like we're going to get a really good bump to our I rating, and we should expect to get 70 plus championship points given the strength of field and the size of the grid. So really now, with this position sort of under our control, my focus is on just bringing the car home. And you can see we're coming up to some back markers, cars that have had trouble in the early phases of this race, and that again is another thing that you just have to manage through the back end of these races, and it's not a foregone conclusion at all that those cars will let you by, and in fact some of them could even be quicker than we are. If they've managed to get their car repaired but they started higher up on the grid, then they could be capable of setting quicker lap times than we are. Palomero has managed to get through at least one of those cars up ahead, and we're going to come up on the back of Honegger pretty soon. So I take a decision really at this point of the race to start just easing off slightly from the quickest times that we're capable of doing. I don't really want to make a mistake. I don't really want to have to pass Honegger on track if I don't have to. It doesn't feel to me like we've got any chance really of catching up to Palomero in 4th position. He's demonstrated that over the course of the last 5 minutes that he's got the pace on us, and if he does have an accident and he ends up leaving the track and he has to rejoin them, we've probably got a small enough gap to him to realistically get past in any case. So being very pragmatic, just deciding really to bring the car home and settle for where we are. We're probably going to have one more racing lap after this, but if we flash now to the pop-out camera, this is on board with Asdathorn, and he is running in 2nd place, or at least he was, because it looks as if he's come together with DeZono and looks to be out of the race. So we're coming then across the start-finish line in just a moment, and we will get confirmation then that we're actually going to get promoted at the last up to 4th position. And that is the kind of thing which to me just makes no sense. Why were the two of them prepared to go through that corner side by side? Now we'll have to have a look at the replay to just get a sense of who was ultimately responsible there. We only saw one perspective on it on board with Asdathorn, but that is not a part of the track where you can pass. Back to the pop-out camera then, this is the race leader coming across to ultimately win. That's Nunez just crossing the start-finish line as we are going to come to the end of this final racing lap. We are closing in on Honegger, who is the lap down, but we're not going to try and pass him on track. He's going to pull to the right-hand side anyway, so it does look as if he would have let us past, but we don't need to in order to come home in a fantastic 4th position. I'm really, really delighted with that. This then is the accident that took Turnbull, who was running behind us, out of the race. A huge shunt, and really unfortunate for him because he had good pace. But this is the really interesting one. This is the helicam shot of the cars running in 2nd and 3rd. The orange car there in the 2nd position, and it looks as if they come together going through the very fast last corner, and that the Red Bull liveried car ultimately pushes him out of the race. But a closer inspection shows there isn't actually any contact, and it's another one of those netcode issues which ruins the driver who is coming home in 2nd place, otherwise his race entirely. So a big shame then for Asdathorn. He ends up coming home in 7th position. We are celebrating 4th place and a championship point haul of 87 points, so really, really pleased with that, and a very nice bump to our I rating as well, which is now at an all-time high of 1.4k and getting close to 1.5. Our safety rating is up to 3.9, so we're not very far off at all a licensed promotion to Class B. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the race. I certainly have. The championship is progressing really well. If you have, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.